I'm Steven Olszewski, editor of Offroad Xtreme. aFe handed us the keys to their tricked out 2017 Ford Raptor. We've been out here beating on it on some local trails just to see how they perform. Ford had given me the keys to a stock Raptor a while ago when we were able to put it through its paces. Even though it's an amazing vehicle from the factory, it still had a few shortcomings. To us, it seemed sluggish and it just didn't sound right. Here's how this one compares. aFe has upped the power with an intake and exhaust and a scorcher module that plugs into the computer. The truck gets up and goes, and it sounds a whole hell of a lot better. In addition, aFe has added sway-away coilovers up front and bypass shocks in the rear. It's handled everything we've thrown at it, and it has little body roll. Now that we've had some time to play with it, it's time to head back to the shop and turn it over to Paul for some dyno testing.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Hey, so how was it?
It was great. It's hard not to have a smile on your face.
I know that you drove the stock Raptor a couple of weeks back at King of the Hammers. How does this compare in terms of power and handling?
It was great. The suspension was nice and soft, anything we threw at it, and the truck got up and went wherever we wanted it to.
Well, aFe's made a lot of changes to this truck, and I want to get it onto the dyno, but first, pull it inside and let's go through some of the changes.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So before we put this truck on the dyno, let's talk a little bit about what aFe has done to it. Up front, they modified the suspension with sway-away 3-inch coilovers in place of the stock dampers. Now recently, aFe acquired Sway-Away's line of truck and off-road components for suspensions, and it's a really good match. It joins their aFe control line of suspension components, and it's going to help us get the extra power in this truck to the ground. These coilovers have threaded collars for ride height adjustment, and they come set up for a 2 to a 2.5 inch lift. They also have remote reservoirs that have their own stainless steel mounting hardware, and they're designed to be completely rebuildable. Best of all, they're designed to fit exactly where your stock shocks were. Here out back, there's a matching pair of 3-inch sway-away triple bypass shocks. Now these are a piggyback reservoir design, and they're also set up to be a direct replacement for your stock dampers. The 3 external circuits give you very fine control over the damping curve. Hey, and check this out. Pro Series differential cover. It's made from die-cast A380 aluminum for strength and lightweight, and it's designed to hold 5 quarts instead of the factory 4. It's got a fill plug, a drain plug, and a sight gauge on the side so you can tell your oil level at a glance. Plus, it's also got these strengthening ribs both on the inside and the outside that also act as a heat exchanger. Hey, while we're still down here, check this out too. This is aFe's 304 stainless high-tuck exhaust system. What does high-tuck mean? Well, that means that it's designed to follow the contours of the underbody of the truck to maintain ground clearance off-road. It comes with stainless steel high-flow mufflers, and they've paired it with their Street Series catted downpipes. This is really going to help uncork the turbos, plus it sounds freaking amazing. So in addition to uncorking the exhaust, aFe has also done a lot of work on the intake side of this truck. In this case, they started with the Momentum GT Pro 5R intake, which installs without any cutting or drilling. Now this uses a pre-oiled filter that's both washable and reusable. Now you can't see it here because it's hidden behind the grill, but they've also added their Blade Runner GT High Performance Intercooler. Now this intercooler is designed with 3-inch bar and plate style core, and it's got TIG welded end tanks that got some neat features in it, like a drain plug and an accessory port so you can run a boost gauge or a water methanol injection. Now this comes with an intercooler tube that's mandrel bent, and it flows 17% more than stock. And all this uses the stock mounting location so it drops right in. Alright, here's the cherry on top, the Scorcher GT module. This is not a programmer. It plugs into your wiring harness and requires no cutting or splicing, and it's designed to work with stock vehicles or with vehicles that have aFe modifications. At the push of a button from inside the cabin, you can choose between 4 different performance levels: Stock, Sport, Sport Plus, and Race. And best of all, because this isn't a programmer, it doesn't touch the contents of your ECU. It leaves no fingerprints. If you ever want to go back to a completely stock configuration, it's easy. So now that we've had a tour of all the different modifications that aFe has done to this truck, I think we're finally ready to take it on the dyno and see how it does. So here's our graph from when we had a stock Raptor on our DynoJet chassis dyno. We saw a peak of 330 horsepower to the tires and 363 foot-pounds of torque. And if you look at this, you look at the torque curve, you see how it peaks pretty early and then tapers off and kind of plateaus here. Now, Ford has got a pretty aggressive torque management strategy for their EcoBoost engines, and it really kind of reflects in this graph.
It's definitely something you could feel while you're driving the Raptor. You could take off quick, but then it kind of tapered off towards the end.
So there's a lot to work with here, and it'll be interesting to see how aFe has kind of bulked this up. We expect to see better horsepower and torque peak numbers, but more importantly, It's going to be interesting to see how that area under the curve gets filled in, because that's what you really feel and that's what you really use. All right, now we're really talking here. With the aFe equipment on this truck, we see a new horsepower peak of 397 horsepower at the tires and an incredible 436 pound-feet of torque. More importantly, remember what I said before about torque management? Take a look at the difference in the shape of these curves. Where the stock truck is dropping off and hitting this plateau here, we're still climbing with the aFe equipped truck. It's really an amazing difference and just a huge hit of horsepower and torque.
Yeah, with the addition of aFe's intake and exhaust, it really gave the Raptor the sound that we were lacking when we drove the factory one.
And it's really amazing that all this came from basically bolt-on modifications. Well, our dyno results really bore out what you saw with your seat of the pants observations, but I want to ride now.
Sounds good. We're supposed to get it back to aFe, but they're going to have to catch us first.
Get it.